Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a huge end of summer book haul. So over the summer, since my last book haul in I think about June, I have acquired another 25-ish books and I definitely need to be going on some type of book buying ban come fall because I, one, won't be having as much money because I am going down to a different job, which is very exciting. 2, I'm going to be in school. And 3, I won't have enough time to read. So this is my way of establishing all the books that are currently on my physical TBR and moving on for the foreseeable future. But anyway, let me just get on into the video and show you the books that I have acquired recently. So first off, I'm going to show you the books that I have picked up recently that I have already read since or before starting this video, just to make it a little bit easier to go through the piles. Then I'll talk about some books that were gifted to me, and finally talk about the books that I have just otherwise acquired. So the first book that I picked up nearing the end of June was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is a fantastic adult romance. This is Emily Henry's second book. Her first was Beach Read, which was beloved on BookTube last year. And this book has just been following in its footsteps, also a beloved classic for the 2021 BookTube summer. This tells the story of Poppy and Alex, two best friends for most of their adult lives. They met in university. They couldn't be more different and not very alike in personality-wise. However, they are very good friends, and their friendship is established over a course of summer vacations that they take every single year in order to keep in touch. Until 2 years before the start of the story, they had a falling out on one of their summer vacations and they haven't spoken since. Poppy is feeling very uninspired and unhappy with her life, and she decides that she wants to go on one last summer vacation with her best friend Alex and see if they can mend any bridges and change her life. This book is fantastic. It's a great story of friendship, and sometimes when friendship leads into more. It's a great friends to lovers story, and I love that it takes place not just in the present day, talking about their relationship and dealing with their friendship after a big blowout and 2 years apart. It also flashes back to all of their other summer vacations that they've had over the past 12 years, as well as the summer that kind of ended it all. Both these characters are fantastic in their own right. Poppy is just bright and happy. She's a travel journalist. She is living in New York. She is just a super eccentric personality. And then there's Alex, who is super reserved, bookworm, writer, has his PhD, is a teacher, all that kind of stuff. They couldn't really be more different, but they seem to have such a caring relationship and such a happy friendship that they couldn't be more perfect for each other. I don't know if I liked this one better than I liked Beach Read. They're still pretty tied for me, to be perfectly honest, but I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, another one of BookTube's summer favorites. I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I picked this up shortly before June because I wanted to read this I think I read it in July. But this is the third novel from Taylor Jenkins Reid, set in the same kind of universe as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. I think that I enjoyed this one second best out of the 3. Evelyn Hugo will always be my favorite, but I think this topped Daisy Jones and the Six for me. This is, unlike the other 2, not told in an interview style format. This is a regular novel. It does have 2 timelines. It deals with the children of this fantastical rock star named Mick Rava. The first timeline follows his children, Nina, Hud, Jay, and Kit. Yes. These 4 kids in the 1980s, leading up to their big summer party. Every single year they have a massive beach party at one of their houses, and it has become a Hollywood sensation. Following the rich and famous of Hollywood, everyone who is everyone shows up to this party. And it also flashes back to Mick and June, their parents, as they met and as their relationship crumbled and how it impacted these kids' lives. I adore this book so much. It was so fantastic. It made me cry. But it was a really great story, and I think the only thing that took away from it for me was just talking about other people in the world. I really couldn't care less. I wanted to know more about the kids and the parents. And near the end of the book, there's a lot of conversation about the other guests at the party that I think could have been left out, to be perfectly honest. But Taylor Jenkins Reid does a fantastic job of like narrating this old Hollywood feel and making this setting and timeline so real and feel so real. Feels like all these people really lived and were famous, and it's just a fantastic form of historical fiction that I absolutely adore. Next up, another summer booktube favorite, and that I picked up One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This was my first Casey McQuiston book I ever read. I heard mixed reviews about Red, White, and Royal Blue, and it wasn't really, I'm not really into it. I'm not really into like royalty books, but I really enjoyed this one. This tells the story of August and Jane. August is a young woman who has just moved to New York City in order to kind of start over. And on the bus, or one day on her commute on the train on the subway, she meets Jane, who looks like she stepped right out of the 70s punk rock style, and the two hit it off right away and become the favorite part of each other's morning commute, until August realizes that Jane is not actually just looking like she's from the 70s, but she is actually displaced in time and stuck on the train. The two of them start a fantastic little budding romance, as well as trying to deal with the weird magical sci-fi element of trying to get Jane back into her proper time. This one was a really great read. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a super fun summer read, and I really enjoyed all the characters, especially the side characters. Like August's roommates were so rich and well developed, and I think they kind of carried the story a bit for me. Between August and Jane, I love Jane so much. She was such an interesting character, being displaced from the 70s and being gay and being stuck on this train and kind of realizing what's going on with her life. I really enjoyed watching her go through that journey. And yeah, anyway, we love the Sapphic books. They're fantastic, and I really enjoyed this one. Next up was my book club pick for the month of May, I believe. Or was it June? I can't remember. I think it was June. And that was Too Much Lit by Melissa Lukashenko. This is a adult literary fiction novel that I purchased recently. And this tells the story of Carrie, Carrie is queer, she is Indigenous Australian, and she is trying very hard to stay out of prison. She has not spoken to her family in over a year, but has to return home because her grandfather Pop is dying. And this tells the story of Carrie reuniting with her family, dealing with the heartbreak of her leaving and the relationship that she has with her family, which is incredibly fraught. It tells a story of intergenerational trauma, and it tells a story of of Indigenous Australians and their struggle, the Australian government coming in and taking their sacred land, because that is another subplot that happens in this story. This was really well written. I think it was really fantastic, and I really, really enjoyed the story. Again, I read it during Pride Month, and it was a great queer story, one that didn't center around Carrie's queerness, which I thought was also fantastic. And overall, I think it's a great read, especially if you want to learn more about Indigenous Australian issues. I think this is a great place to start. Then next up, I picked up and read The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. This is also, I think, beloved graphic novel series following this magical world in which dragons are like pets or companions to different creatures, including humans. And there's an entire subspecies considered to be tea dragons. And this one main character discovers tea dragons one day and becomes a part of the ever-dwindling Tea Dragon Society, a group of people that are there to protect and culture and nurture tea dragons as their life's goal. This was super cute, super fun, also queer. The artwork was just absolutely precious. I love it so much. And I'll definitely be continuing on with this graphic novel series, but this is great if you want something quick, easy, light, and super, super fun. Okay, now moving on to the books that were gifted to me. Tyler and I, for our anniversary, went to the Indigo store for the first time in a year and picked out books for each other to read. So I will show you the books that he picked out, or that I picked out and that he bought for me. First up is another graphic novel, and this is Saga Volume 2 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is a fantastic sci-fi Romeo and Juliet story, really. It's really weird and really quirky, and the art style is fantastic as well. Like, it's just beautiful. I love it. I'm not really usually into sci-fi, but I read the first volume of Saga last year, and I really enjoyed the story between these two characters that are fighting on opposite sides of a centuries-long war. coming together and having a child and trying to bridge the gap between these two communities. I think it's a fantastic story and has a lot of different like twists and turns in it. Really, really enjoy it. Again, the artwork is beautiful, so I'll definitely be continuing on with this series, but this is just one that I will definitely be purchasing the rest of soon. Next up, I picked up For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten. This is a adult fantasy novel centered around a character named Red, who is the second daughter and the first second daughter in this world for centuries. In this world, the first daughter is meant to rule, the second daughter is meant to be a sacrifice for the wolf. The wolf is this creature that lives in the woods surrounding this community and requires a sacrifice every time a second daughter comes around. Red has kind of accepted her fate and is ready to go forth into this new adventure when she realizes that pretty much her entire life has been a lie. The wolf is not a monster but a man, and he has to help her kind of rein in and control the magic that lives within her body in order to save their entire community. I've heard fantastic things about this story. It's dark, twisty, obviously a bit of a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, and tells a fantastic adult fantasy story that I'm very excited to read come spooky season. It's going to be a great read. Next up, I picked up Rise to the Sun by Leah Johnson. This is Leah Johnson's second young adult contemporary novel. I read her first book, You Should See Me in a Crown, back in May and absolutely adored it. But this is a sapphic YA contemporary novel following two characters as they both go to this fantastic summer music festival. This follows Olivia and Tony. Olivia is just reeling from a breakup with her last girlfriend and entering her senior year of high school and trying to go and have the best weekend ever at this farmland music festival, whereas Tony is going to this festival about to enter college for the first time, trying to follow in her father's footsteps. And the two girls kind of join forces for the weekend to try and make sure that they get the best out of the weekend and what they wanted out of their weekend. And it's sapphic, it's a love story. I'm very excited and I absolutely can't wait to read this very soon. I hopefully will be reading it before the end of summer because it is taking place at a summer music festival and that is the vibe we are going for. Next up, Tyler picked up for me The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. This is a book I've been looking forward to reading for so long. This is a young adult fantasy novel following our main character, Decca. She is looking forward to this blood ceremony that happens every single generation in her community, hoping that it will solidify her place in the community and give her more of a solid identity. Blood is spilled during this ceremony and she's hoping for red blood because it will solidify her place in this community. But the fateful day comes and her blood runs gold. She is ostracized from her community, called a demon, but she ends up being picked up and becomes part of this fantastic female-led warrior group, claiming that they are the only ones that can stop the Empire's greatest threat. This is a great story full of female empowerment and magic and a fantastic fantasy world that I am so excited to get into. I've heard nothing but good things about this. One of my best friends at work is obsessed with it, and I cannot wait to read it myself. Next up, Tyler picked up for me Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is a book that I've been looking forward to reading for so long. Look how gorgeous this cover is. This tells the story of Shiori, who is dreading her betrothal ceremony, and she has dark, forbidden magic running through her veins. Normally she's able to conceal it, but during her betrothal ceremony, she just loses control. At first it seems like a blessing. It gets her out of the betrothal that she did not want to be a part of, but it accidentally gets the attention of her stepmother. Her stepmother ends up banishing Shiori from the palace and turning all of her brothers into cranes, and is told that if anybody is told of what happened, her brothers will die. Shiori, instead of living in her banishment, ends up having to team up with the man she was almost betrothed to in order to save both her kingdom and her siblings. I'm super excited about this. It's got very fairy tale vibes going for it, and I'm super excited to get into another new YA fantasy. Finally, the last book that Tyler picked up for me was Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. This is the first book in a new epic fantasy series by the author of the Red Queen series, a series I have not actually read either. This will be my first Victoria Aveyard. It is her recent release, and I'm very excited about it. It's the one that's got kind of found family elements to it, all these characters coming together to try and save their kingdom from this darkness. On the back it says, a squire, the survivor of a failed quest, an immortal, timeless and unfathomable, an assassin skilled and heartless, an old sorceress hiding secrets behind her teeth, and a pirate's daughter, the ward's last hope. The heroes are gone, but the fight to save the world has only just begun. So I'm super excited about this. I love found family, misfit group type fantasies, and it's going to be multiple points of view, and I am very excited to get immersed into a new fantasy series. So next up is just a large conglomeration of books that I've picked up in the last couple of months that I'm very excited about. A bunch of them are like dark academia type books, some fantasy, some horror, and I'm pumped. First book that I ended up picking up is the Mary Shelley Club by Goldie Moldavsky. This is I think it's YA horror, following this main character, what's her name? Rachel, who is going to a new type of high school called Manchester Prep. It is like dark academia vibes, a boarding school. And since she is a scholarship student, she's struggling to fit in among all the rich kids that she is surrounded by her. So she turns to horror movies for comfort. After she ends up being the byproduct of a prank gone wrong, she turns into public enemy number 1 and gains the attention of the Mary Shelley Club, which is a small secret society at this group that administers these fear tests. Also pranks that are based on different horror movies and slasher films. She gets excited being part of this group, but then as the fear tests become deadlier and deadlier, she realizes that she's caught up in something that she has absolutely no control over. Very excited about this. I am planning on doing an entire dark academia horror themed vlog come spooky season, and I'm pumped for it. This is going to be definitely on my list of books to read then, and I'm very excited to get to it soon. Next up, I picked out Blackout by Danielle Clayton, Tiffany D. Jackson, Nick Stone, Angie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk, and Nicola Yoon. This is a collection of 6 short stories that are all interconnected and create one overarching tale during a blackout in New York City in the summertime. This is 6 different love stories, all that happened during the blackout, all written by fantastic Black authors celebrating Black love. I'm pumped for this. I still haven't read it yet. This is another one that I am definitely looking forward to reading before the end of summer, and it's just going to be fantastic. I've heard fantastic things about it. I've been looking forward to reading it for months, and I can't wait to give this a shot once I've finished the current anthology I am reading. I can't wait. It's going to be so wholesome and so cute, and I'm so excited. Next up, I picked up one of my most anticipated reads of the year, and that is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. This is another dark academia spooky boarding school story, but this one is sapphic, and this one deals with witches, and I'm so excited. This follows our main character Felicity, who's going back to her eccentric boarding school for the year after her girlfriend died. She ends up getting her new room in this fantastic, sought-after room in this school on this campus, where 5 students called, the Dalloway 5, all died mysteriously one after the other on the grounds. It is rumored that these girls were witches, and witchcraft is woven into the makeup of this school, despite the school not wanting to talk about it. However, the students do. The students are very into the witchcraft and witchy elements of this school. Felicity is trying to figure out what happened after her girlfriend mysteriously died, coming to terms with where she is in her life when she meets, what's her name? Ellis. She is a method writer, a prodigy writer at 17, and is determined to search for the Dalloway 5, the ghosts that haunt this castle, campus, and is enlisting Felicity to help. And it says at the end, and when history begins to repeat itself, Felicity will have to face the darkness in Dalloway and in herself. I'm so excited about this. Again, I've heard nothing but fantastic things, but it's witchy, it's sapphic, it's dark, it's creepy, and I am so ready to read this again come spooky season. Next up, I picked up Small Favors by Erin A. Craig, the author of The House of Salt and Sorrows, one of my favorite books that I read this year. This new novel is set in a world called Amity Falls, and it follows our main character Ellery, who is sick of her very predictable life, chasing after her sisters, running the farm that she lives on with her family, and watching her twin Samuel get to do anything he wants because he's a boy. This world, Amity Falls, is surrounded by woods, and one day the rumor is that early settlers fought off monsters in these woods, and that there are rumors that these monsters never actually died, and it keeps the townsfolk from wandering too far into the woods. However, after some people go mysteriously missing after a trip through the woods, a sense of unease follows the fall, or lands on the fall. Strange things start to happen during the fall after these people go missing, and it becomes very clear that these creatures are real and they are starting to plague the townsfolk. They offer them their deepest and darkest desires, any wish that they want, in return for just a small favor. I'm super excited about this. I love the idea of a like kind of hidden world that is surrounded by forest. It gives me very fairy tale-esque vibes. I'm very excited about it. I loved Aaron A. Craig's writing in House of Salt and Sorrow. It's very lyrical and atmospheric. This is giving me similar vibes to like The Hazelwood or The Wicked Deep, and I am pumped to read this again, like most of these in spooky season. Next up, I picked up my book club pick for the month of August, and that is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This tells the story of Felix, who is Black, queer, and transgender, and trying to find his place in the world. He's never been in love, and he wants to feel that feeling before he leaves high school, and he ends up in a kind of quasi-catfish-esque relationship online when another anonymous student starts sending him transphobic messages using his dead name and showing pictures of himself before he transitioned. He comes up with a plan for revenge, but what he doesn't count on is becoming part of a love triangle and trying to determine what he really wants from life and answering the actual question how he feels about himself and his identity. It seems to be a great coming-of-age YA novel that I'm very excited to read. It's been one of the books that I've been wanting to read for over a year now, and I'm so excited to talk about it with my book club. It's going to be great. Next up, I picked up a graphic novel, and that is The Dire Days of Willowbrook Manor by Shannon K. Garrity and Christopher Baldwin. This tells the story of Haley, who, after on a dark and stormy night, sees a man fall into a river. She decides that she's going to be the gothic heroine that she always admires in her favorite gothic romance novels and try and save him. She ends up jumping in the river to save him and ends up at Willowbrook Manor, and she seems to have been thrust into a perfect gothic novel scenario. It's described as having a stately manor, a sinister housekeeper, 3 brooding brothers, and even an invisible ghost, but Willowbrook is definitely not what it seems. It seems to be its own little portal universe trying to protect itself against outside forces, and Haley seems to have to be the unlikely hero that Willowbrook needs. It seems to be a comedy gothic romance parody, and I'm so excited about it. The artwork is adorable. It looks so cute. Like, it's super bright and colorful and bold, and I'm so excited to read this again super soon in the fall time. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Next up, I picked up one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and that is The Jasmine Thrown by Tasha Suri. This is a Indian-inspired epic fantasy story following 2 characters, Princess Melina and maidservant Priya. Melina is desperate to escape her despot brother in this confining world that she lives in, and Priya, who is forced to disavow her world and her birthright and her power. She dreams of freedom. The 2 of them end up banding together. This is a sapphic story, and they end up trying to save their entire world and kingdom. It says, in a world beset by wild magic and turbulent uprising, their destinies will become irrevocably tangled, and together they will set an empire ablaze. I'm so excited. I love these characters, these stories where they come together to destroy an empire. They're so fun, especially from within, considering one of them is a princess. And then I love the sapphicness of it. It's going to be fantastic. It is a brick. It is quite the story, and I'm so excited to get into it very soon. Next up, another one of my most anticipated books of this year. I picked up The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is the 4th story in the Truly Devious World and the start of a new series, I believe. Not quite sure. The Truly Devious series follows Stevie Bell, who is a amateur sleuth who ends up going to this mysterious Ellingham Academy and solving the decades-old cold case that plagued this world. After the events of the trilogy, Stevie is called to this camp by the director as a counselor for the summertime. She can bring out her friends, but unbeknownst to the campers and the rest of the counselors, Stevie is tasked with solving the cold case as well that happened there, the Box in the Wood murders, where a bunch of counselors were killed, like slasher, Halloween style. And the camp counselor, or the director of the camp, wants her to solve it for his podcast. I'm super excited about this. I'm excited about the, like, again, Halloween slasher kind of setting at this summer camp and to see where the mystery unfolds. I love Stevie, and I love all of her friends that she made at Ellingham Academy, which will make appearances in this book. All these characters are so diverse and different, and each such individuals that are really, really great together and have fantastic personalities, and their friendships are just so pure. So I'm very excited to read this very, very soon. Next up, I picked up a trilogy that I'm not quite sure how I'm going to feel about it, but I'm excited to give it a go, and that is the entire From Blood and Ash trilogy by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So I picked up From Blood and Ash, Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and The Crown of Gilded Bones. There's more books coming out, but this is a adult fantasy romance following two characters, the only characters whose name I know is Poppy. I literally know nothing about this series, but it is apparently action-packed. Apparently fans of Sarah J Maas will enjoy this. It is definitely not the highest brow of literature, but I am excited to read it just for the fun of it. Yeah, I'm pumped for this. This is going to be an interesting ride. Adult fantasy romance. That's all I know. It's going to be interesting, and I'm excited to give it a go. Next up, I picked up House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland, sorry. This follows three characters, three sisters who vanished when they were kids for a month's time and returned with absolutely no memories of their past. Weird things start to happen to them as they grow up and after the events of their childhood and the trauma of their childhood. And when one of the older sisters, Gray, ends up going missing again, her little sisters Iris and Vivi have to drop everything that they're doing and try and save her and try and find her as more supernatural events start to whirl around them. This is like a fantastic YA horror novel that I am very excited to read. This is definitely got some elements of like portal fantasy and some creepy supernatural paranormal elements to it that I'm definitely excited about, and this cover is just freaking gorgeous, so easy buy for me. Next up, I picked up the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This is a mystery thriller novel set in the 90s, and it follows our main character, Patricia, whose life is kind of hitting a dead end, and the only thing that gives her really much joy is her book club where they read true crime novels. Then a mysterious and seemingly too good to be true man named James Harris walks into her life in 1993. He makes her feel things that she's never felt in years, but when children on the other side of town start to go missing, she begins to question their relationship and question his motives. I'm super excited about this. This seems to be a fantastic novel. I've heard amazing things about this book, and I can't wait to read my first Grady Hendrix, and then I'll move on to the Final Girl support group, because that's another book I'm really excited about by Grady Hendrix to read soon. This is going to be great. Another one to read during the spooky season. And finally, the last book that I picked up for this haul is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyamidi. This is a young adult gothic horror novel taking place in a boarding school. It is dark academia, it is queer, and I am so excited about it. This tells the story of these two prefects at this prestigious boarding school who, once they become senior prefects, they think it's going to be great. It's going to show up well on their college applications. It's going to lead them to valedictorian status. But then an anonymous group called the Aces begins sending them threatening and deadly text messages that are threatened to unload all of their secrets to this entire school. It's described as Get Out meets Gossip Girl, and I've heard fantastic things about this story. I've heard the characters are amazing. I've heard the story is creepy and suspenseful and terrifying, and I am so excited to read this. This is one of my most anticipated books of the entire year. I follow the author Farida on Twitter, and she's hysterical, and I love her, and I absolutely can't wait to read her debut novel. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so creepy. I love a good thriller, especially a YA thriller, and it's going to be fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up because it really does support my channel, and leave me a comment down below letting me know the book you are most excited to read in the next coming months, or the best book that you have picked up over the summertime. If you're new here, please subscribe. I put out new bookish and writing videos every week, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye-bye.